want to start by sharing a fun story. I've always been super nervous about public speaking and avoided it at almost all costs. I've ran bunches of companies, nonprofits, where it would have made sense for me to do public speaking, and I've tried to stay away from it. And more recently, I've recognized that was something I had to shift. So I've been putting some attention there. But when Betsy reached out and asked if I would speak, and she told me when it was, I was like, okay, I'm looking at my calendar, and I'm just hoping that I have like an important birthday party or why I can't say yes. And so I looked at my calendar for tonight, and the only thing I had on there was to go to my first Toastmasters class. Still the last 17 years. So let me start off by sharing my involvement in and orientation around politics, as it'll make this make more sense. I grew up with a very strong activist orientation. I was doing door-to-door fundraising for Greenpeace when I was 10, and doing work for human rights campaign, and just always had an orientation towards wanting to support and help those that couldn't help themselves, whether that was people, the environment, animals. And as I grew up and I started to get deeper and deeper into different elements of work, I started to focus a lot on public education and trying to put out better information, enroll people in better thought processes and ways of being. And I kept running up against something which was, no matter how much good information is out there, there's a limit to how impactful it can be when there are laws and policies that make it fundamentally impossible to do the right thing, sometimes entirely and at least easily. Right? So a good example is the federal government does several $1 billion a year in subsidies for GMO, non-organic farming. And as a result, when you go to the grocery store, it's a whole lot cheaper to buy non-organic, terrible food than it is to buy organic, even though without those subsidies, organic food is actually cheaper and better for you, better for the environment. Right? This is a policy issue. So as I started to recognize this, I realized that there was a deep necessity to actually understand policy, understand politics, and be able to make shifts in the laws that govern how we're allowed to live our lives and be. So over time, I ended up getting progressively more and more involved, and inevitably over the last several years, spent a lot of time predominantly focused on drug policy reform and prison reform, and I ended up writing or co-writing 7 different bills that went on the ballots. One of which, since you guys are in Encinitas, you've probably seen last ballot, there was a medical cannabis measure. That was something that I did. And it's not because I enjoy politics, they're actually terrible, but simultaneously important. You guys have all heard the term of the government, of the people, by the people, for the people. How many of you feel like that's an accurate representation of so we've all watched the different politicians that are in place. The Congress and Senate pass fucking insane bills, right? Things that are in the benefit of a very small number of extremely wealthy people and to the detriment of everyone else, the environment, animal rights, and we see this happen all the time. And as we watch it, it's very easy, I think, to become disenfranchised with the entire political system and to say, screw it, this is something that it's too painful to watch, I don't even want to know what's going on. And I see this as a prevalent thing that shows up in our community. I would say this current presidential election probably increases that feeling for most people substantially, because there may be a few people in here that disagree with me, but it's essentially a choice between the lesser of 2 relatively extreme evils. One that is somewhat psychotic in nature, and one that is quite intelligent and tactical in systemic destruction. But either way, want to turn away and to not want to be involved. And when you look at our media and the system that brings this information out, almost everything is focused on the presidential race, as though that is all there is to politics. It's not. There are a large number of really impactful bills that are on the ballot this year that have huge implications in our lives and the lives of people we love. There's a lot of other people who are up for election in all kinds of different offices that matter. And I want to, if I'm effective tonight, I will hope to encourage people to